AAM, I reported my awful manager to HR and it's not going well. Concluded. For mobile users, fun fact: human resource management used to be referred to as personnel administration. In the 1920s, personnel administration focused mostly on the aspects of hiring, evaluating, and compensating employees. However, they did not focus on any employment relationships at an organizational performance level or on the systematic relationships in any parties. This led to a lacked unifying paradigm in the field during this period. Trigger warning: ableism, workplace harassment, less than. Original, September 8, 2014. I have a bad manager. She's a bully, constantly screaming at me, calling me an idiot, jackass, and blaming me for her mistakes in front of our department. After 8 months of enduring her harassment and bullying, I politely requested a meeting to talk with her candidly about her obvious frustrations towards me. She declined to talk with me and continued to verbally abuse me. I love my job and my peers, which is why I held out for so long. I filed a grievance with my HR department the following week after she accused me of misplacing an important document and then calling me a idiot after IT located it completed on her computer desktop. The director of HR called us into his office for mediation and she cried and said I was attacking her, ambushing her, and making her feel like a bad person. The director said that he would do a full investigation of my claims and it was to remain confidential. Then coworkers in other departments started forwarding me emails that my boss had sent to them. They said, "Don't go to lunch with Jane. She filed a complaint against me and we have issues. And, are you going to lunch with Jane? If you are, I don't want to intrude because she tattled to HR about me." I showed the director of HR the copies of the emails and he said he would investigate. I ended up having to go on FMLA because of a medical condition. But how do I address the situation? HR has swept it under the rug and has not returned my emails concerning the matter. Allison's advice is at the same link. Update, December 18, 2014. When I returned back from my approved FMLA, I had a meeting with HR and my manager to discuss the finding from the investigation. The director of HR gave me the findings along with the formal statements from my coworkers, which were in support of my manager's behavior and painted her to be the victim. I was shocked, but I continued to complete my job responsibilities and my manager ignored and avoided me the rest of the month. October. Adam, a coworker, gave me a copy of his formal statement which didn't match at all what I was shown in the investigation upon my return, and I asked him if this was the same statement he submitted to HR. When he said yes, I told him HR gave me a different statement that didn't match his original. It turned out, the director of HR altered and fabricated the formal statements from my coworkers and showed the false ones to my manager, which gave her an ego stroke. Before I returned from FMLA, she then went around her department badmouthing my disability to these coworkers, calling me a cripple, and telling Adam, Frank, and Chad that this is the reason she hates hiring people with disabilities because there is always a possibility that they will need to be out of the office on leave. When I found out all of this information, I knew nothing was going to change. So I resigned. Shortly after my resignation, less than 24 hours to be exact, my coworkers told me in an email that they all sat down with the director of HR and manager and were forced to sign a document or be terminated from the company by the end of the week. The document said that if I took any legal action against the company that they were to make. It seemed like I was the one attacking the manager and I had made up everything in exchange for a hefty raise the following month. Adam snapped a picture of the letter and submitted his resignation letter. A few days later, Frank, another coworker, submitted his resignation letter, and the last coworker, Chad, requested he be moved to a different department within the company immediately, which was approved in mid-November. The four of us ended up retaining an highly rated and recommended employment lawyer, and I filed an EEOC complaint. We were all able to find stable employment weeks after our resignation. But one thing continues for me. Every Monday, I get a voicemail from my previous bad manager sobbing, crying, and apologizing, then telling me if I need anything to let her know and she will help me. I've sent her an email and CC'd the director of HR about the odd behavior and asked her to stop contacting me. Thank you again for your advice and assistance. It helped me out tremendously. Names have been changed. This was posted in 2014. So I am hopeful that her attorney advised her not to make any further updates and they got a sweet settlement. OTOH, the manager calling every week sobbing, does raise my suspicious hackles up. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was false. Bad move on HR's part. No employee, manager or not, is worth keeping over four, hopefully, hard-working employees. Shame on them. I had a nightmare boss like this. She would burst into sobbing loud tears if anyone said anything remotely negative to her, but she herself was a screaming, desk-pounding bully. She was quite literally impossible to give any kind of constructive criticism to. All three of her direct reports went to HR together in an attempt to have anything done to help, and we got given books how to deal with difficult people, and told that there wasn't much else they could do. It has been years since I reported to her, and it took years to get over the anxiety and misery she inflicted. OTOH, the manager calling every week sobbing, does raise my suspicious hackles up. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was false. We can never know for sure how real anything on the internet is. But my manager, who believes themselves to be a master manipulator in spite of all evidence, is making the very stupid choice of trying to manipulate me via phone, is not exactly unlikely. Does this remind anyone else of a recent series of events with another of the world's greatest business mind opening themselves and their company up to an insanely pricey lawsuit? Just me? Okay. I'm confused. Doesn't what OOP describe in her first post not constitute a hostile work environment in the US? Or does hostile work environment need to involve a protected category? Why didn't Allison suggest retaining an attorney to get to the bottom of this? As always, when anyone says contact HR, I say contact a lawyer. This woman should be assembling widgets in a factory, not dealing with humans. That manager's name needs to be dragged through the mud in the industry they work in. Hope OOP and their co-workers were able to get some justice. This may seem extreme, but it's plausible. Used to be a lawyer in a firm specializing in employment. I did other areas. It was nuts. Also, a less extreme thing happened to my hubs. He keeps receipts though. Though the credibility of this story is questionable, it's still a real possibility. I've seen departments that have effectively abandoned or were created specifically for nepotism. And it eventually evolves to what we see in this post and a lawsuit happens. Departments that are managed or cared about rarely put themselves vulnerable or this vulnerable to a lawsuit. WTF. With the exception of my coworker resigning too. That's my last work story. Cold sweat smile. She was a bully with everyone, including some other company's workers. HR knew and done nothing. But she doesn't care and no one cares because she's still bullying people these days. How cartoonishly evil. Wow. OOP's biggest mistake was not recording every interaction with the manager after the first incident. I've been recording meetings with managers, HR for years, and I would recommend you do it too. First, is this illegal in two-party consent states? Yes. Can said recording be used as proof for legal purposes in those states? No. Can you be fired if the recording comes to light? Yes. This is true even in one-party consent states if your company forbids it. I typically use the recording to write up a summary of the meeting, the pertinent points, and action items for moving forward. I then email that to everyone in the meeting and BCC my personal email. I've discovered that the Apple Watch voice memo function is great for recording without having to play around with your phone. You get pretty good sound quality for such a small mic and speaker. This is the sort of story I generally don't believe happened, not because people aren't discriminatory assholes, but because you won't have a group together where no one thinks, let's not document our blatantly illegal behavior in front of likely hostile witnesses. Single quote. I smell borderline personality disorder. The manager calling every week sobbing does raise my suspicious hackles up. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was false. Everything about this story is a ridiculous over-the-top cliché. Just a reminder for everyone that the role of HR is not to resolve disputes in the company but to get potentially harmful peoples out of the company before they cause trouble and thus cost the company money. They are not on your side or the side of whoever you launch a grievance against. They are on the side of management and will always go with who is more expensive to get rid of. Remember kids, HR are not the good guys. They are the baddest of the bad guys. When it comes to getting the shaft at work, they are there to protect the company from legal trouble. They are not a resource for you. Your office is not a family. I'm sorry, but it's time you knew. HR sucks. I have been working for over 30 years and every company I've been to HR is for the company they are, not for the employee. They don't care about us employees, they are there for what's good for the company and the company only.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.